Welcome back to our channel. Today we will explain you about test case preparation and guidelines. By seeing this video, you will understand how to prepare a test case for any testing project, and also you will come to know the guidelines to be followed during test case preparation. Test case preparation. It is derived from use case document. Use case provides sequence of actions performed by a system which combined together produce a result of value to a system user. Precondition for use case: the state of the system and its surroundings that is required for the use case to work successfully. Post conditions are the observable results and final state of the system after the use case has been completed. Advantages of using use case document in test case preparation. Process flows in the use case document are used to drive test cases. They are efficient to uncover the integration defects. Traditional test case design techniques can be used, and test extraction can be used to debug the use case. Guidelines for test case preparation. While preparing test case, we should ensure that the test case indicate the purpose of the test and how it will be tested. Then ensure that the test environment and test data are available along with the test steps and expected results. Tester's name should be added to ensure for visibility that who prepared the test case, and if required, add the proof and attachment for reference. Important to note that prepare test cases that are valid, accurate, reusable and traceable. Flow for test case preparation deriving from use case. First, familiarization and analysis of use case to be done. Then identify different scenarios, both positive and negative flows. Then write test cases for each scenario using traditional methods like boundary value analysis and path coverage. Test case specification guidelines. It defines and explains how to implement the test cases for the features identified by the test design specification. What is a test case? A test case is a sequence of steps and an expected result based on the requirements for the system. It is a logical one. What is a test script? A test script relates the test case to the actual implementation, that is screens, menus, fields, buttons, etc. Hence, it's physical. Usually, the test design and test case specifications are combined into single document. Desirable features of test case preparation. Desirable features of a test case should be accurate, that is, the test case should be created for the purpose it is designed for. Then economical, there is no unnecessary steps should be included in the test case which might divert the objective of the test. Then repeatable and reusable, that is, the test case should be prepared in a way that it can be repeatable and reusable for different levels of testing. Then traceable, that is, the test case should have traceability to the requirement. And the last is self-standing, that is, it should be understandable by all persons, or we can say that it should be independent of the test case creator. Risk prioritize of test case preparation. Risk prioritize of a test case weight the cost of building and exercising the test case based on the criticality of the condition being tested, the likely frequency of use of the path or condition, prior defect patterns, and complexity. How test cases are extracted from functional specifications. Through traditional method, we will analyze the specification requirements, then list the test requirements, where the tester need to come up with the ideas of what should be tested, along with details like inputs, outputs, controls, validations, errors, and processes and business logic. Finally, we will write test case for each test requirement. List the table of contents of a test case specification document. First, test case specification identifier. It should be unique and traceable. Then, test items. We need to identify the items and features to be exercised by the set of test cases, and it could be explicit or via the identification given in the corresponding test plan. Then, input specification. Specify the inputs required to execute each test case, and multiple aspects of test case may be covered under diverse test data. Then, output specification. Specify the outputs and features of the test items. Then, environmental needs. List the software and hardware required for execution. Then, special procedural requirements. Here, specify the initial data or the setup steps for conducting the test. And the last is intercase dependencies. List the identifiers of test cases which must be executed prior to a test case. How test data will be prepared in any project. Test data are a required data to execute a test case. Test data preparation can be done in three ways. First one is extracting from production data. It will be provided to the team by production support or business team from client side. The second way of generating data is through test data generator automation tool like Test Manager. And third way of generating data by manual test data generation, that is by using traditional techniques. We will prepare the data using the software path, boundary check, equivalence partitioning, etc. This method is used normally in low-level testing. Types of test data. There are two types. One is entry data, the other one is background data. Entry data is the data that are entered into the system as input to execute a test case, whereas background data is the data that are needed to set up the environment to execute a test case. Types of test cases. There are basically two types of test cases. One is positive test case, the other one is negative test case. Positive test cases are meant to ensure that the application is made as per the business or end user requirement, whereas negative test cases are meant to ensure that the application is not deviated from the business or end user requirement. In this video, we will see one positive and one negative test case. A detailed test case sample will be covered in the next video. Test case for a login page. First we will see the happy path, that is positive test case. First, future reference number, that is login page test. Test case ID, it should be unique. Then functionality, its login page. Then step description, enter the valid name and password. Precondition, application must accept the username and password. Name should be only in alphabetical character. No numbers and special characters allowed. Password should contain minimum 6 characters with 1 capital letter, 1 number and 1 special character. Input criteria, username spelled as ABC and password capital X YZ at 12. Expected result, login page should open with all its content. Actual result, login page should open with all its content. Status, pass. Remark, test done. Next, test case for a login page with negative test case or negative path. Future reference number, it's a login page test. Test case ID, it should be unique. Functionality, login page. Steps description, enter a valid username and an invalid password. Precondition, application must accept the username and password. Name should be only in alphabetical character. No numbers and special characters allowed. Password should contain minimum 6 characters with 1 capital letter, 1 number and 1 special character. Input criteria, username ABC capital letter, password all small case XYZ at 12. Expected result, login page should not open. Actual result, application should throw an error message stating entered a wrong password, please type the correct one. Because we entered all small case as XYZ at 12, because 1 capital letter should be there in password. Status, pass. Remark, test done. Traceability matrix, mapping of test cases with the requirements document like business requirement document, system requirement document, user stories, product backlog items, etc. Traceability matrix ensure that the business requirement or end user expectation are captured during test cases design, and traceability matrix helps to measure the test coverage of the given requirement. When requirement traceability matrix will be prepared in a project? It can be prepared both before or after test case design. It depends on the test model we choose for the project. What is bidirectional traceability matrix? Bidirectional traceability matrix refers to the forward and backward traceability. Forward traceability is from requirements to design to code to test cases, whereas the backward traceability is in the reverse direction, meaning thereby the end product has met the requirements or not. It is quite difficult to achieve the backward traceability without the help of a tool. Contents covered in the requirements traceability matrix: project name, traceability ID, ID should be unique, requirement, source of requirement, through what means the requirement captured, that is through client approved document or mail communication or status call, etc. Then software requirement specification or functional requirement specification document with version. Design specification, program module, test specification or test title, test case, test verification result, modification of requirement if any, and a remarks column. Test coverage. Test coverage is a quality metric that represents the amount of application code that is being covered by the test cases. It is applicable for both functional and non-functional testing activities, and this metric helps testers to add missing test cases. What is equivalence partitioning? Inputs to the software are divided into groups that are expected to exhibit similar behavior so that they are likely to be processed in the same way. Equivalence partitioning can be found for both valid data and invalid data. Partitions can also be identified for outputs, internal values, time related values, and for interface parameters. Test can be designed to cover partitions. Equivalence partitioning is applicable at all levels of testings. Equivalence partitioning as a technique can be used to achieve input and output coverage. It can be applied to human input via interfaces to a system, or interface parameters in integration testing. Now we will see an illustration for equivalence partitioning. Equivalence partitioning may be best explained with an example of a function which has the pass parameter month of a date. The valid range for the month is 1 to 12, standing from January to December. This valid range is called a partition. In this example, there are two further partitions of invalid ranges. The first invalid partition would be less than or equal to 0, and the second invalid partition would be greater than or equal to 13. Equivalence partitioning is no standalone method to determine test cases. It has to be supplemented by another method. We will discuss about boundary value analysis technique. Behavior at the edge of each equivalence partition is more likely to be incorrect. So, boundaries are an area where testing is likely to yield defects. The maximum and minimum values of a partition are its boundary values. A boundary value for a valid partition is a valid boundary value. The boundary value of an invalid partition is an invalid boundary value. Tests can be designed to cover both valid and invalid boundary values. When designing test cases, a value on each boundary is chosen. Boundary value analysis can be applied at all test levels. It is relatively easy to apply and its defect finding capability is very high. This technique is often considered an extension of equivalence partitioning. Boundary values may also be used for test data selection. Now let us see an example for boundary value analysis. If the same example of a function which has the pass parameter month of a date, valid class is should not be less than 1 and greater than 12. Invalid class 1 is month less than 1 and invalid class 2 is month greater than 12. Hope you understand. When compared to equivalence partitioning, which says select any test case within a range and on either side of it, whereas in boundary value analysis the emphasis is on the edges. Month 1 and 2 and 11 and 12 for the edges of the valid class, and also month 7 a middle value will also considered to be a valid class, whereas month 0 and 13 for the invalid class. Experience has shown that when a test case on or just to one side of a boundary of an equivalence class is selected, then the probability of detecting a fault increases. Test case design checklist. The checklist contains checklist steps, checklist item and remark column. The remark column contains yes, no and not applicable option. The test manager or the test lead needs to provide the status for each checklist item, like they are following or not following, or the checklist item provided here is not applicable for the current project. It will help understand for all the stakeholders about the current process being followed in the project. Checklist item number 1. Test case name is meaningful and represents the function tested by the test case. Checklist item number 2 has the appropriate template for the test case document being followed by the testing team. Checklist item number 3 confirm that the test case configuration process is defined for the project, like naming convention, numbering convention, etc. Item number 4, consistent naming convention for test cases is followed in the project. Item number 5, priority is assigned to test cases and test steps as applicable. Item number 6, test case has optimal number of test steps. Item number 7, test steps have information like the navigation path, screen names, etc., detailed in such a way that test execution team can be independent of test design team. Checklist item number 8, every step in the test case corresponds to a single action. Item number 9, test case has traceability information linking to requirement or use case. Item number 10, defect traceability. Test case captures defect IDs and other details at the test step level to trace the defect origin and to retest. Item number 11, test case specifies setup information like environment, data, prerequisite test, security access, etc. Item number 12, test case captures the multiple iteration or test execution cycle results. Item number 13, details of types of testing is captured in the test case. Item number 14, expected results for all the test steps are mentioned in the test case. Item number checklist item number 15. If appropriate, does each test case test for boundary conditions on input? Checklist item number 16. Test case has provision to capture actual results and details of any execution proof such as reports or screenshot, etc. Item number 17. Detailed revision history is maintained in the test case document. Revision history should contain mainly version number, author, revision description and date. Item number 18. Test case captures information on tester's name, test start date, test end date, etc. And the last, checklist item number 19. Test case captures test case review status and reviewer's name. With this, we conclude the topic test case preparation and guidelines. We will connect again with you in our next topic, sample test cases. Thank you for watching our channel.